2018 was a pretty lackluster year. It was filled with half-assed releases like Neowiz's Bless Online, which is shutting down, Gameforge's Soulworker, which has merged all their servers together to attempt to survive, and Playwith Interactive's Warlords Awakening, which is also shutting down. Then in 2019, we had, wait, what MMOs released this year again? Oh right, yeah. DK Online was re-released, and within the few months it's been online, it is down to a concurrent player base of 20 people. Gameforge re-released Guardians of Ember, which died shortly after its launch. KurtzPel wasn't even an MMO, but instead was a two-player co-op brawler. Legends of Aria, I guess, is going into early access this month. So 2019 was filled with a lack of new releases altogether. Thankfully, this year was salvaged by expansions like Shadowbringers, Elsweyr, and the upcoming WoW Classic. But disregarding those, there really hasn't been much of anything to really shake the genre. 2020, however, is finally looking to change that. Yes, we have a lot of indie developers that are trying to produce good MMOs like Crowfall or Pantheon, Chronicles of Illyria and the like, but with setback after setback, playing any of those in 2020 doesn't look all that promising. And although I'm not one to put too much faith in Eastern MMOs, we do finally have some that look like they'll be launching next year. 4 of them having Western launches confirmed, and one being, well, I guess uncertain for now. And they're what I'd like to talk to you all about. So with that out of the way, let's jump right in. Before we do though, if you're interested in mobile games, go check out our MMO by Mobile channel and see if there's something there that interests you. Okay, so I would have been crazy to not have started this video off with what is possibly one of 2020's hottest, most anticipated MMOs, Phantasy Star Online 2. If you guys weren't already aware, then at E3 this year, Microsoft announced that Japan's most popular MMO, which players have been eagerly awaiting for almost a decade now, is finally getting a North American release. A worldwide release is unconfirmed right now, as the PSO2 website stated officially that the game would be coming to North America in spring 2020, with Microsoft themselves publishing it. Initially, the game will launch onto both the PC and Xbox One, with PS4 and Switch ports expected down the line as well. When specifically is unknown, but nevertheless, we have all been waiting for this one for a very long time. Maybe too long, depending on who you ask. Microsoft went on to elaborate that we will be receiving the game in its entirety, meaning every single individual piece of story content available in Japan will be translated and available for us. This means that we won't be far, if at all, behind the Japanese version of the game. One thing worth noting is that Microsoft don't have a right to a lot of the cross-promotional outfits and events over in the US, so a lot of events, including costumes and items, will likely not be available. But those aside, we're looking to get a full Western localized version of the game. Transfers of your characters, however, are likely not an option for those of you that seem to be under the impression that they will be. PSO2 is generally regarded as one of, if not the greatest anime MMORPG of all time. Now you guys will get to experience that firsthand. And of course, judge for yourself if that is true. Ascent Infinite Realm has been hyped up for a while now. It's the next big MMO out of South Korea after Bless failed. I say big MMO because honestly, although Astelia is slated for release this year, I don't really think it'll be nearly as large as Air. A lot of people were under the impression that Air would have a release, or at the very least, a beta slated for this year. The team behind Air ran into a lot of problems though that prevented that from happening. Which is fine, honestly. I would much rather they work out their issues before the game gets a beta over here, because we MMO gamers are an unforgiving lot. And while this meant that no 2019 release would happen in the West, it was revealed that both Thai and South Korea would have versions of the game enter beta this year at the very least. A North American and European release in some form is expected to happen in 2020 though, so long as nothing happens to further hinder Air's progress. A 2020 release should be in our sights. I played the Thai version of the game, and although there were some optimization issues and I guess a little stiffness in terms of character movement and the combat, the game was very alike to the current ArcheAge MMO, which was surprising to me. ArcheAge looks and plays amazingly, so using that as inspiration was a very good idea. Not to mention that without ArcheAge's pay to win, it was a very popular game. Okay, so Temtem isn't an Eastern MMO, but it definitely feels like an Eastern MMO. Not that it's grindy, but I guess it's anime-esque visuals, which I might add are very Pokemon inspired. Now, if you're not a Pokemon fan, then this may not actually appeal to you, as it does follow the same fundamentals that the Pokemon games do. You are a kid, and you set out on a journey to capture Temtem while attempting to become a Temtem master. You go about defeating dojo leaders, which are honestly identical to gym leaders, and you level your Temtem along the way. Every dojo leader and every dojo itself subsequently has its own unique element, and well, it's just like Pokemon. Your Temtem level, they learn new abilities, they evolve. What's important to note though is that although this is very reminiscent of Pokemon, this is a full-fledged MMORPG. I encountered hundreds of other players while out exploring the world. I saw them doing battle, I talked to some of them, they chatted amongst themselves, and I even had a few people that recognized me. Since it is an MMORPG, you would expect to be able to play it with other people, and although you are playing alongside hundreds of other players, you are limited to partying up with only one other player. This can, of course, make it feel a little less MMO-esque, but you can team up with a friend to tackle the entire game and even other players in PvP. Ultimately, co-op play wasn't possible when I did a video on the game, as I wanted to record like side by side with my wife and capture both co-op combat, co-op progression of the story with my wife. But they did state that in a future large patch, they do plan on implementing that. So, you know, I look forward to getting my wife in-game to help me out there. And who knows, it might be a good game for you to play with your significant other or your friends, who knows. Regardless, Temtem has an expected release date of May 2020. Although we've spent most of this year without, we did get a few interesting announcements. One, after almost a decade, we would finally be getting PSO2. And two, after almost a decade, yeah, it has really been that long, we would be getting Kingdom Under Fire 2. Although the game was first announced in 2008 and went into beta testing in 2011, it holds up fairly well. Yes, the game itself does feel a tad bit dated, but given when the game was made, you'd expect as much. Now, we've been waiting for this game for as long as PSO2, and Gameforge, yes, that Gameforge have announced that after it had been shut down everywhere else in the world, they would be localizing it for a Western release. The game clearly shows its age. It isn't nearly as fast or action-packed as action titles released in the last few years, and the strategy aspect, well, it may be lost on this generation that are more interested in flashy effects and instant results. For those of us interested in strategy, however, for those of us interested in games like the Total War franchise, for those of us that have just been waiting an eternity to finally get our hands on this, well, here we are. It is a little weird that Gameforge would pick an MMO that has been shown to have little interest in it and overall no lasting value, as the game is no longer being worked on, but you know, hey, it's money, I guess. Now, I'm still excited because it's an MMO I was highly anticipating years ago, and I couldn't be happier to be finally getting the chance to see if it plays as well as I had always expected it to. If not, that is still perfectly fine. It'll be free to play regardless, so the largest investment that you lose is your time. I saved Blu Protocol for last because it's the most recently announced MMORPG in this list, and probably the most recently revealed MMO of the entire year thus far. As in, it was literally just announced last month. Now, I know you're all very, very excited for the game. I was barely able to contain my excitement for it as well, so much so that honestly, I actually went ahead and made a subreddit for it, which you can find in the description below, and like 3 or 4 different videos on it since its announcement. It is a game out of Japan that is perhaps the most beautiful anime-inspired MMO I have ever seen. From what we've all seen via gameplay, trailers, and screenshots, it is every one of us anime fans' dream MMO. However, it also has no Western release date confirmed yet. While Bandai Namco have yet to publicly announce an English release for the game, people did find English translated game files, which has led certain people to suspect that there may be an announcement sooner rather than later of a certain nature. Regardless, with the game that has yet to launch even in Japan, it would be a little inane to expect a Western release this soon. However, as the game is expected to launch in 2020 in Japan, we will likely be able to access it at the very least via VPN for the time being. You know, like we have been with PSO2 the last several years. until Bandai Namco realized to what degree we're all actually anticipating it. Blu Protocol is probably my most anticipated anime MMO ever. There aren't really any other MMOs that are confirmed to be releasing in 2020 that I think will really garner much of a following, I guess. I could be completely wrong, of course, but if there's anything I have learned after running an MMO channel for the last 2.5 years, it's that we're all thirsty for something new to grab and hold our attention. Yes, there will likely be other MMOs to release next year. Probably other indie developed games that launch into early access and ultimately underwhelm, or other re-releases like Guardians of Ember or DK Online. But these games, these right here, are games that I foresee lasting at the very least the course of the year, depending on when they release anyway. If not, then oh well. If at least 3 of them perform above expectations, then we'll have a very good year with new MMOs to play. Or we'll just, continue on playing Classic WoW or Final Fantasy 14 or any of the other large MMOs left alive. Who knows? But that is just my opinion, my thoughts on the genre right now. What do you guys think though? What are you most looking forward to? Or are you going to spend another year hoping something catches your eye? Or are you going to try these out? Let me know in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this and I'll see you all next time. Peace.